Hello everyone, this is your guy Rajat from Rain Studios. So some of you must wonder sometimes that how do they develop real world applications and launch them out there on Google Play and Apple App Store. So in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly what development or design flow I follow to develop my professional application and launch them on Rain Studios official channels like Google Play or Facebook stores or chatbot stores, etc. Also, I would like to clear one thing, that in today's video, I'm not going to talk about the applications I developed at my full-time employer or the applications I developed for client work, because in those applications, I am not responsible for carrying out certain stages, but the intent of producing this video is to give you proper insights about how you can go from conceptualization stage to a production ready application on your own. So the intent is to make you a proper software developer who can develop an application and launch the application on his own. Before I start the video, I would like to tell you that if you are on Instagram, I want you guys to follow me on Instagram at Rajat1Saxena. I think that I'm going to produce more and more Instagram friendly content because they have recently launched this Instagram TV, and this Instagram TV really looks promising to me, and I think that I can produce several bite-sized content about software development and all, which can actually benefit the tech community and you in specific. So make sure to follow me on Rain Studios Instagram channel. Thank you, and let's get to my laptop. And alright, so for the sake of this video, we are going to have a look at the development cycle of this one particular application I developed last year, known as Kivia. So basically it's an anonymous chatting application using which you can connect to any person out there who is also using the application at that very moment, and then you two guys can chat. Okay, so let's go through all of the stages which I went through in order to create this application. So the very first stage is the market research. Before writing any application, you have to be very sure that this application has some sort of a market need, because the application does not exist for the sake of existence. It has to perform some sort of application, because if there is no requirement for that application, no matter how much efforts and money you throw at it, it is not going to be a successful venture at the end of the day, because it does not cater to anybody's need. So your application has to have some sort of market need which you can actually exploit in order to make some money out of that application. Okay, so to do that, you can go to several sites like Quora, which is a question answer site, and do your preliminary market study. Like for this Kivia application, I searched like anonymous chatting. So like as you can see that there are certain results about anonymous chatting, and then I can go to these things and look for myself that there are a certain number of following to these questions, and then there are other related questions as well. So at the end of the day, I got to the conclusion that there is some market requirement for it, and I also have used their other certain chatting sites, so I knew that there was a market requirement for that, and I just reaffirmed my assumptions based on all of these questions. And then again you can go to Google and search for other anonymous chatting things, right, and maybe read an article or two about if there is any recent market demand about certain type of anonymous chatting. So I did all of those research, and based on the research I reached to a conclusion that I should go ahead with the creation of this Kivia thing, because clearly there was a market requirement for it. Hence I concluded by market study, and based on that I proceeded on to the stage number 2, that is prototyping and designing. So this stage basically deals with the creation of what the application should look like, what kind of feature set it should have. I mean, you have already decided on the feature set, but still how those feature sets will be arranged on the UI and what sort of functions will be visible above the fold on the main screen and what functions will be below the fold, I mean, for which you have to scroll past the main screen in order to get to those functions. So in prototyping and designing, I think I have got a typo here, so let me correct that as well. So okay, so in prototyping and designing, you actually create a prototype, then you also create a colorful design which you can hand over to your developers, on which they can actually build the real world application. So for prototyping and designing the application, I used Figma. Basically it's a prototyping tool which is online, so anybody can sign up for a free account and create some free prototypes. So basically I also used a free account to create this sort of layout or a prototype. So as you can see that I tried my hand at creating a logo, and I created a logo which I was very satisfied with, and I tried some alternate color schemes as well, and once I reached to this one particular reddish color scheme, I was very satisfied. So I readily used that logo as the mascot for the application, which you can see here, and I named it Red Demon, but it can be anything. So I created all of these wireframes and prototypes, and this was before single line of the application code was written. So when I was finished with this design, I had not written even a single line of code. So I created all of these design, like as you can see, this is a design for the Android application, and this is the design for the web application interface. So I created all of those design, then I forwarded the design to some of my friends who were not associated with the Kimia thing. I just forwarded the design in order to get their feedback, like dude, does this thing look natural to your eyes, and do you think that you can understand the application just by having a look at it? So most of the people told me that they readily got what the application was all about. So I was sure that okay, the prototypes, excuse this funny picture of mine, so I was sure that the prototypes were on point, although designing an application is a ongoing thing, so you can always reiterate over the design. You don't really have to launch something perfect, and you should not actually aim for perfection, because at the end of the day the technology scene is always evolving and you can never reach the perfection you want to reach. So just focus on creating a working design which can actually portray the purpose of your application properly, and then you can always reiterate over the design in the future when you have already launched the application. So I created all of these wireframes and I was satisfied with it. Then I proceeded on to this stage number 3, that is developing the application. Again the numbering is off, so here and here. So the third stage is developing the application. In this stage you take, first of all you take several decisions, like what kind of technology you are going to employ in order to make your application a reality. So when I moved on to this stage, I had some requirement, like first of all I wanted the website and I wanted an Android app as well. So there were two front ends for my application. Based on the App Store guidelines, I concluded that Kivia could never be launched on Apple App Store. Hence, I dropped Apple App Store from my catalog. So there were only two applications needed to be developed as far as front end was concerned, and those were the Web UI and the Android UI. So for Android, I readily picked up Java and XML and Android Studio because that is a de facto stack for creating Android applications. Now we have got React Native as well, which I use and I actually like more as compared to Android Studio tech stack, but still at that time I used Android Studio along with Java and XML to write the Android UI for the application. Okay, now about the web stack, I used React Native. As you can see that the website is used, this button of React Developer Tool is growing, which shows that this website uses React. I mean not React Native but React. So I was experienced with React, so I readily picked up React. Had I had some sort of experience with Angular, I would have picked Angular maybe, right? So you can do all sorts of technical analysis based on how comfortable you are with any sort of technical tool, right? So I picked React for the web. Okay, then I needed to create a chat server and a business logic which runs on that chat server so as to make the application work the way I wanted it to work. So for the chat server part, I used MQTT message broker for writing the chat server. Now I had some experience with MQTT because back when I was writing Poland chat, I was constantly searching about how could I make Poland chat more performant. That is when I stumbled on this MQTT thing, and I knew that there were alternatives to this MQTT thing as well. For example, like XMPP thing. So in case you are also building that sort of an application, maybe you want to check out MQTT as well. So I employed MQTT for the chat function, and to write my custom business logic, I employed Node.js because I was like proficient enough in Node.js because earlier, I mean 2 years before writing Kivia, I was using Laravel as my full-time development framework of choice, but I had moved on to the Node.js stack prior to writing Kivia. So I decided that Node.js would be more logical because it basically dealt with asynchronous code, because a chat message can arrive at any time. It is not a synchronous thing. So Node.js was a good choice for that sort of an application. So I used Node.js in order to write my backend logic. Okay, so once I was ready with the application code and I was ready to launch it on the Play Store and on the web, the next stage arrived, and that is deploying the application. Once you are done with the designing and testing part, you need to put your application out there for people to use. And you don't just put your application like that, like, okay, here is my application, because your application is not a tangible thing. It's an intangible. So you need some sort of mechanism to distribute your digital content to the other people, right? For that, you require things like servers and hosting. So for hosting my backend infrastructure and my web app, I used DigitalOcean. Now DigitalOcean is a cloud platform which can provide you with several types of computing systems. Those are better known as computes in cloud terminology. So it can provide you with systems so which you can use to to deploy your applications. Okay, so basically they give you certain amount of RAM and certain amount of CPU which can be devoted to the execution of your application. So I use DigitalOcean to deploy my MQTT server and Node.js logic on, and also my React's front-end UI as well. So the whole application, this whole application is running on DigitalOcean's architecture. Also in my business logic thing, I included some APIs. Those APIs are exploited by Android applications. So basically I wrote an Android UI and it does not do anything on its own. So it has to rely on the backend logic which is hosted on DigitalOcean, and it communicates with the backend logic via APIs. In case you are not aware about cloud things, I request you to check out my another playlist in which I have gone over the basics of cloud. I even included a video where I taught you how to deploy a practical real world application onto a Google Cloud. So you may want to check that out. Also on my channel there are certain videos about things like API designing, and also you may want to check those videos out as well in case you want to learn more about these new things. Okay, so I use DigitalOcean to host my backend logic. Okay, now the website was deployed and ready, and I could forward other people to the website and they could use the website in order to chat, but I still had to launch the Android application. For that, one has to go to developers.android.com, then to Google Play and launch the Google Play console. Here they provide you with a dashboard where you can upload your application, and then you create a store entry, which is basically what you see when people search your application on Google Play. So if I go to Google Play and search for Kiwi, and here is the application. So this is the store entry. So you are required to provide Google with all of the relevant data so as to give them an opportunity to review your application properly and to attest that your application actually does what it actually says that it does. Okay, so you have to fill up this form, and you have to also fill up a form where you declare that what sort of content is visible inside your application. So based on that, they give you ratings like this. It signifies that people of what age group are eligible to use your application. Okay, so you provide Google with all of these graphics and metadata, okay, which is visible here, as you can see here, right? So then you upload your APK, the file you get out of Android Studio once you think your application is ready for its prime time. So you upload that APK to Google Play's dashboard. Once you are done with all of the metadata upload and APK upload, you submit your application to Google for review. Now, the guys at Google go through the application manually and they check that whether the application works and it works fine or not. If everything looks okay to them, they give you a go ahead, and once they give you a go ahead, your application goes live on Google Play. So I went through all of those stages, and once those stages passed, the application was readily visible on Google Play. So that is how you actually take your application from the conceptualization phase to the final deployment phase. I think in this video I have addressed several queries which you must be having before watching this video. In case you are interested in learning more about application development and what other stages are involved in full stack development and mobile development, make sure to subscribe to this Rain Studios video channel and also give this video a thumbs up in case you liked it. Take care. Bye bye.